Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Christian Music Bros podcast. This is the first episode of the year, so be hyped. This is now our second full year doing it because our first year we only did like 3 months. But once again, I'm Brendan, and this is Braden.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
How was your Christmas very quick, Braden? We only have a couple minutes, but
It was really good. Hung out with family, got to get several projects done. It was a really sweet time.
awesome. Mine was pretty good too. Family, and like we haven't posted an episode in a whole year. Can you believe it?
I know, right? Yeah.
Like it's been since last year.
hmm
But anyway, we have a special guest today. This is Dawn Michele from Fireflight. So I will let her introduce herself and everything very quick.
Hi everyone, it's me, Dawn Michele. Yep, just getting the year started. My Christmas went really well, in so much that none of my children threw up or got sick, and neither did my brother who came into town, or my dad, or my mom. So when you get to be a mom, if you have a holiday and no one gets sick, it's really a great success no matter what else happens. So I'm pretty
That's
thankful.
that's always a success, and that's always a good thing.
hmm
But we'll just start off. Well, we'll just start off. Can you give us a little bit about your music background? We'll just start with that, and that's nice and easy.
Sure. I grew up kind of singing around my house. I was one of those kids who was always trying to entertain everybody and probably really annoying. And I was really excited about theater and every song on every Disney movie that ever came out. And I even I would memorize commercial jingles and things like that. I don't know. I probably was terrible to be around. And then when I got into middle school and I really started in theater and all that kind of stuff, started singing on stage a little bit, but it really wasn't until I started going to church when I first started high school that I started singing in church and really started having the opportunity to, I don't know, sing more. I sang at and talent shows when I was in elementary school, and that was something that my parents really loved. And we had some VHS. Okay, my cat has come to the party.
Hi, Kat.
I didn't realize he was in here when I closed the door. Sorry.
You're good.
Go past. That's Beans. So I didn't really do much with my singing at all until I started going to church and started singing in the choir and things like that. And as I was in high school, um, that was when I was starting to sing more. And I sang at a graduation service when I was graduating from high school for the graduating seniors at my church. And some other people, lots of people were there, including one of my classmates whose older brother was starting a band. And he was dating, actually maybe married by now, to a girl who was playing bass in the band. And they approached me after that service and asked if I would sing in their band. And that was Fireflight. And so there I was, 18, graduating from high school. And I started working with Fireflight and practicing. It took us a while to come up with our name and all that kind of stuff, and a couple of drummers down the line. But we were together actually for 5 years before we got signed. And in the meantime, we were just working every week, 2 practices a week, paying band dues, and just driving across the state as far as we could before we could get back, send time for either college or work the next Monday. That's what we did. That was our lives, just kind of grinding it for 5 years before we got signed.
Very cool. You said you used to sing Disney song. What was your favorite Disney song? Sorry, this is just a random question.
That's a really hard question. I have a lot of favorite. A Whole New World is a really good one. You can't get away from that one. But I kind of always go back to Sleeping Beauty and the song that she sings in the woods. And I always sing that. I'm a preschool teacher now, and I'm always singing that to my little kids in the class and all that. When I know you, I walked with you once upon a dream. That one, I think that was just kind of etched in my brain forever.
That's always good. Brandon, you have a question you want to spin off of that or anything?
Sure, no problem. Like you mentioned, of course, you're a lead singer for the band Fireflight, which incredible. We're both big fans of it. And over the years, Fireflight, you guys released, I don't remember how many albums, but it was a good handful of albums, different styles and all that. What was it look like now looking back from like your first album to your last album, Who We Are? What was it like, the music, growing from each album, taking it in a different music style, lyrics, and all that? What was it like as a band individually, growing with that?
Yeah, it's a tremendous journey. We released a CD independently and it was fine. We're really hopeful that most people don't find it. Sometimes you can find it on eBay and things like that. And I always discourage people from finding it because it's, in our eyes, it's really terrible, but it's like the first stuff we did. And anything that you do, any kind of thing that you're trying to create, a new skill that you're trying to learn, you always start off and you're not that great because nobody, nobody starts off great unless you're one of those prodigies. And so some of our music, looking back, I'm like super embarrassed about, but I have to look at it and see it's part of our journey. And, we've been a rock band since the beginning. And I think, our first couple of albums, we were really kind of finding ourselves. And then we even tried to explore more. So we've kind of everywhere from rock to pop rock electronic with Anova, and then kind of circling back to rock and maybe even a little bit heavier than we even started for our releases since Anova, with the singles that we've released, and then Who We Are, The Head and the Heart. And I'm really proud of us for the ways that we've tried to explore things. And we have a lot of fans who've been with us on the entire journey. And so I'm so thankful for the people who have kind of started with Fireflight from the very beginning and hung on the whole time. And it's always been my prayer in my heart that people will be able to listen to our music and feel seen and find encouragement in the things that they're facing in their lives, or even just take a break from their lives if they need to, depending on what they're going through. And so I think as far as the journey as a whole, we're kind of semi-retired now. We're not touring anymore, but every day I still get to talk to people who share about how the music impacted their lives. And to me, that's our greatest accomplishment, even past touring internationally and getting to go to the Grammys and all that cool stuff. What makes the best, I think the biggest impact is any change that we've been able to, our music has been able to be there for people and their own lives and what they're facing.
That's very cool. And like you said about, I also like independent stuff. So like if I find it, I'm gonna play it and then I'll show you and just say, hey, I got it. No, I'm kidding. I like a lot of self-independent projects and everything. I think they're some of the best and most raw and like real projects sometimes though. Looking back at your albums, can you tell us a little bit about like some of your, do you have any personal stories of any of your songs or anything you want to share?
Gosh, that's kind of like asking me for any stories for my whole lifetime.
You don't have to. I'm just like thinking random questions.
On right now, right now I'm in the studio with Josiah Prince, who's a buddy of mine and buddy of the band. He produced the last album for Fireflight and a lot of the singles leading up to that album. And it's been a really tumultuous year of change for me personally. And I've had this opportunity, thanks to other friends who are also investors, just wanting to see more music created. And I've got to be in and out of the studio this past year. And actually we're moving to drums tomorrow. Actually, we're going in to start drums with my buddy Adam McMillian. And I think this year has been a really poignant year for me in writing, because a lot of my life I have really been kind of looking for like a how-to guide, give me the 10 steps to success and I will follow those steps. I'm so ready for someone to tell me what to do. And there really is not actually anything very simple about life like that. And so I know that recently I've been finding myself able to open up in my music more because I've been looking more at myself and trying to become more myself and who God made me instead of who I think everybody else wants me to be. And it's been a tremendous journey, and pouring that into the music has been really incredible. And so I've been really pursuing that this year in myself, open and honesty. And I really feel like that's what people are looking for in music. They're looking to be able to find ways to break free from the chains that are just binding them in their own lives and their old, maybe self-defeating patterns and habits and stuff like that we just get locked into, or insecurity, all these kinds of things. And I think overall, it's the messages that hit me hard is when I talk to people who are telling me, that either our music or maybe the ways that we talked in the past and stuff like that really made a difference in their lives as far as giving them courage to keep going, because I look back on my life and I just see all the chains that I've lived under for so long, and that's, I'm afraid, I'm so afraid of how that's held me back from helping others for so long. But then people will step up and start talking to me, this song, or just the time, that we talked a little bit online and things like that. You really gave me so much hope and strength. And I'm like, wow, even in that time where I was really struggling and didn't even know myself, God was working through what I was trying to do, even in my imperfect. So I feel really a lot of encouragement from that. And I hope that other people remember that too, when they kind of feel insecure about what, who they are and what they've done, feeling like, have they done anything? Because I even have those moments where I just feel like pretty bankrupt. And then I know there's some people who would laugh at my face about that, because there are things when I was still trying so hard, even from my place of woundedness, that impacted them just because I made any effort at all and tried. So I really want to encourage people to not give up on themselves and realize that they do have such a contribution that they're giving to everyone around them and everybody that they even try to be there for, even in their imperfectness.
I really like that. Brandon, do you have anything you want to ask or bring up?
Yeah, well, what you're saying first, that was amazing. I love hearing when, it's not just the music you're hearing that's impacting you, but, the hearts behind the artists, the bands, they really care about listeners. They care about showing them God's love in just different ways through different, styles of music, whether it's worship, whether it's heavy rock. It's amazing seeing how God uses that to impact and bring people out of what they are into that hopeful state. So thank you for all that. Speaking of different styles of music, and this was a while back ago, but you released a worship project, I believe, which still, I love that project. It was different because I'm a huge rock fan, but still an awesome project. What was it like with releasing so much with Fireflight and then diving straight into that worship project?
I really loved making that project. It was such a labor of love, and so many ups and downs and crazy things that happened with that project. But I did it with a friend of mine named Rusty Varenkamp and another friend of mine named David Dents. And at the time, I was on staff at a big church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was living, called Sagebrush, and I was a worship leader there. And so it was a really beautiful time in my life where I was really, I wasn't touring as much, just here and there with the band. And during that time, I was able to really just live in the worship headspace while I was on staff there doing that. And it gave me this space to really, as a rock band, I really do believe that anytime we're all coming together and we're feeling God's love and his spirit, that we're really in a state of worship at that time. But being able to focus specifically on worship, and being in a church, every Sunday and watching the people come in, because usually when you're on the road, you're gone every weekend. But being on stage and watching the people come in as they are, and knowing that they're coming from the middle of their struggles. Who knows what happened to them on the way there, or what's happened that week. They could have just had the worst week of their lives. And they're coming in feeling, a million different ways and a lot of different headspaces, and probably mostly feeling insecure and unworthy. And then standing there on stage and just welcoming them into the headspace that actually God is here with us. And we have this opportunity to celebrate who he is, and to celebrate his love for us. And I think in that headspace is a place that we can start to hold less tightly to all the things that we are struggling so hard against, and make room for God to remind us that he is in control, and that no matter what's happening, good or bad, he is still going to be there for us, and he is going to make ways and paths for us to move forward and to grow. And that's a really powerful space. So I really enjoyed making that music, and I'm a big fan of music. I love all genres of music. And I find appreciation in all of it. And so it was neat for me to work in that more. That is a more pop electronic album. Mm-hmm. And that's fun for me to be able to get to try different vocal stylings and things like that. So I really love that album. And then, I don't know, not everybody knows, but so a lot of people haven't got a chance to hear it, because I did a crowdfund for that album, and on a website called Pledge Music, which Fireflight used to release a Nova with a lot of success. But the company changed hands and actually got into financial trouble, and kind of mismanaged the funds. And then, so I raised a bunch of money on there to be able to do, to release the album. And then the money, I only got a very small amount of it, and the rest of it was all kind of, I guess, stolen. And so, or mismanaged. So I never got the funds at the end to be able to do the big marketing push. And so, unfortunately, I made that album and I put so much effort into it, and all the crowdfunding was I also like to create art. And so almost everything about like the packages that the people, would donate money and going to get this package back in return, almost all of it was like handmade by me. And everyone gave that money, all of my fans, my friends, my family gave that money to support the project and help its release. And I didn't want them to not get what they had, signed up for. And the website kept telling us the money's coming, the money's coming. So I just did what I had to do and created all that from my own funds, what little money I had to create everything and still make sure everyone got their packages. And then I never got the money back. And so like it was a loss instead of a gain. So that was a really hard time because it wasn't just that we didn't get to release the music. It was that I poured so much of my life and my sweat, blood, and tears into it. And in the end, it kind of fizzled. So, but looking back, I really appreciate you mentioning the album and that it meant something to you, because there's lots of people who never got to hear it. And that was such a heartbreaker for me on top of everything else. So, but now, like, I was actually at the airport at Thanksgiving going to pick up my dad, and I was just circling the airport for like 45 minutes. And I was like, two people had brought up songs from the worship album just in they had like mentioned them in their stories or something. And I was like, man, I never think about that project anymore because it was such a sore spot for me. So I just didn't want to think about it. So I I drove there around the airport listening to that worship album for the first time in a long time. And I was like, man, I love these songs. And I'm so thankful that they did mean something to some people out there who got to hear them. And so it's funny how we can really like lose perspective when things are kind of piling on us in our own lives personally. And we start to just lose sight of the good things. And that was a real kind of a wake up call for me to remember that, it says, God's word will never come back unfulfilled. And in that same way, I think, I created that music and it went out there, and maybe it didn't, not as many people as I hope would get to hear it, but a lot of people did get to hear it, and it meant something to them. And who knows what kind of strength it gave them for that day and what that day changed in their lives and in the lives of other people. So we just have to keep remembering that God is weaving a huge tapestry with our life. And even though we may not see what he's doing, each and every thread is so important. And I think for every person, their thread is so important in their own life, whether if they feel insignificant at that time or not.
So true. That's amazing.
That's amazing. And if anyone hasn't checked out Dawn's music, you can find her music pretty much everywhere: Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, maybe Amazon, CD, wherever you find your music. We just have a few extra minutes. We like to give our guests the floor to speak about anything they want to speak. Is there anything you want to bring up?
I would just mention that I'm working on a current project right now. I'm actually getting to work on some different new things as well in my life. I've made friends with some people who are making a movie, and it's an advocacy film for victims of abuse. And abuse is something that I've gone through in my own life and means a lot to me. And I've struggled with mental illness in my life, just really dealing with things that, trauma from my childhood. And I think people deal with trauma from their childhood, whether it develops into mental illness or not, and whether it manifests it or they suppress it. And it's such a soft spot and a hidden thing, especially in the church, because there's all these people in power who have cultivated this idea that everyone needs to be perfect. And if you don't have it together, then you must not be a Christian, and must not really have a relationship with God, things like that. And so it's become this dark spot that everyone wants to hide. And when we push things down like that, they just come to the surface in violence, and it's terrible. So I'm really excited about the projects that I'm working with. The movie that I'm going to be in the movie, and also I'm working with the development and stuff like that. It's called Lena and the Paper Doll, and it's going to film this year. And I'm really excited about that. And I've been really just examining myself, going to therapy and working on myself. We call it doing the work. And it's been a very painful process, but I feel like just kind of stepping into more of God, who God created me to be, instead of who my fears turned me into. And so I would just ask people to keep watching on my Instagram and my Facebook, and just for the new developments of everything that's coming out. I'm going to keep talking about it there, and just keep an eye out. It's Dawn Michele Music. And I also would just implore everyone to remember that, that they're not alone in what they're suffering, what they're facing. And it is so hard to face the truth instead of kind of numbing yourself out or finding false coping mechanisms. But I just want them to know that they have an inherent value that they were born with, no matter what's happened to them or what's been done to them. And that because of that inherent value, their life is worth fighting for, and their contribution is so important. And I just want to encourage everyone who's watching to really fight for themselves, the person that God created them to be, and to get the help that's needed to push through and to overcome, whether it's medical help or mental health counseling, things like that, because that's the kind of stuff that you empower yourself with. And the more healthy and whole and healed that you become, the more that you help other people become healed. And that's so important.
Thank you for sharing that. And we thank you for joining us. I know we had a little technical difficulties getting into this, but and we liked your cat cameo. So thanks for having a cat too.
No problem.
Brandon, anything else you want to wrap this up with? Brandon, are you still here?
Oh, you're talking to me. Sorry. Yeah. Well, thank you, Dawn Michele, again for joining us. Again, for all those listening, thank you for listening to this. Definitely check out Dawn Michele's music. Check out Fireflight again, whether it's a blast from the past or you're just now discovering them. We guarantee you'll love it. Thank you, Dawn, again. We appreciate you joining us on here, sharing so much wisdom, stories. We loved it.
And yeah, thank you. We'll make sure to tag you and everything. When we see more news, we'll post it to our story and everything and help you that way too.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for creating this content and giving a platform for people to be able to hear and learn and grow.
Welcome. And have a great week, everyone. We'll see you again next week. The podcast is back in full swing, so we'll see you guys again soon. Remember, goodbye.